Good morning, it's November 13th, and it says, to my liberal friends, you can always count on Donald Trump to come up with something that would keep him in the news. And some of his ideas have some merit, others not so much, but he keeps throwing them out there. One that doesn't make much sense is his comment about moving to a 50-year mortgage. Ever since the 1930s, the standard length of a mortgage has been 30 years. Those that are smart and want to pay off their mortgage sooner have moved to a 15-year mortgage. The problem that produced this comment is the growing unaffordability for many people to buy a home. High prices are a problem, having risen at a record rate in the past couple of years. Now, two reasons for this explosion of prices are excessive government spending that fueled inflation and historically low pandemic-era interest rates. The Federal Reserve was forced to raise rates to bring inflation under control. This resulted in the average monthly payment on a new home to climb over some 80% over the past 5 years. And that means fewer young people can afford a home. The median age of first-time buyers this year reached an all-time high of 40, compared to the late 20s in the 1980s. Public surveys show the cost of housing is an acute worry for young Americans. But a 50-year mortgage, while it would cut monthly payments by a few $100s, it would also increase the interest borrowers paid by hundreds of thousands of dollars over the life of the loan. Borrowers might also have to pay higher interest rates to compensate for the greater risk of default over 50 years. And we saw this type of problem before. Some of you remember when Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac were buying subprime mortgages that allowed borrowers to take out loans they could not afford. If you now set these mortgages up over 50 years, the equity built in a house would slow dramatically. The Biden administration did not even attempt to solve the problem in a financially sound manner. They started paying mortgage companies to prevent foreclosures, including allowing borrowers to stretch their mortgages out to 40 years. That's not a solution. That's just a Band-Aid over the problem. And this is what the government's many demand-side housing interventions over the years have done. As home prices rose, the government eased underwriting standards so buyers could take on bigger mortgages as a share of their income. This reduced borrowers' financial wiggle room if their expenses increased, as they have over the past few years. Nearly 70% of new Federal Housing Administration borrowers last year had debt-to-income ratios exceeding 43%, and that's considered risky. That's up from 28% in 2012. About 38% of new Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac borrowers last year had risky debt-to-income ratios compared to 16% in 2012. Recent buyers are more leveraged than they were in the bubble days. Please, President Trump, a 50-year mortgage is a bad idea, and as someone who has been in the real estate business, you should know that. Then we have Trump making an announcement that he's considering a $2,000 rebate to voters based on his tariff policy. This just seems to be a reaction to the questions asked by the Supreme Court justices in the recent case before them. I thought he was telling us the tariff money being collected was paying down the national debt. Paying a rebate to consumers would only add to the debt. And I have to assume that Trump's doing this to either influence the court's upcoming decision on his tariff powers, or he's trying to dull the public's pain to any cost increases that tariffs have created. Basically, this is something I would expect from Democrats with the age-old income redistribution policies they normally espouse. Once again, this is a bad idea and should quickly be disregarded by everybody. Finally, we have Trump calling on Republicans in the Senate to change the rule and eliminate Rule 22, the filibuster rule, so they can pass whatever they want. Well, this may sound good at the moment. In the long run, it becomes a negative. Democrats tried this during the last administration, and they were thwarted by Senators Manchin and Sinema, and it saved their butts. Now they used the rule and shut down the government. But the agreement reached to end the shutdown is exactly why the rule is in place. It forced negotiation and finally allowed cooler heads to find an agreement. Fortunately, Senator John Thune rejected this advice and informed Trump that there were not the votes in the Republican caucus to change the rule. The bottom line is there are many good things being done by the administration, but there are times when Trump simply cannot leave it alone and has to interject himself into something better not done. Both the mortgage issue and the tariff issue are ones that he's on the wrong side, just as eliminating the filibuster rule would come back to harm Republicans in the future. This has been To My Liberal Friends. Thanks for listening.